I'm very excited, Matt, that we are coming here together to speak about human biology, the human nature, and why it matters at businesses.
We're not robots or cyborgs, so it matters a lot.
Seems like that it's ignored and we just put it to the processes and then it's just off you go, produce code, produce work, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how would you call this coaching approach and why did you start this coaching approach?
I like to call it either holistic or whole body. And I think it's important to highlight that while it's an important focus, like who the person's kind of physical and mental well-being, when I coach, I work it into the conversation, but it's not always front and center, right? So I don't want people to misunderstand that I'm a health coach, for instance. I'm not a health coach. I'm not certified as a health coach, but especially, in those situations where I'm talking to someone who's clearly like on the road to burnout, who's not sleeping well, who's constantly like feeling like they're not doing enough and stressed. And it's just like, this kind of cyclone of ever increasing stress that they can't step back. It's like, I really do use those sessions to give them space to do that, to just pause. And sometimes I say, let's just breathe. And sometimes I ask about, when they switch off. And sometimes I ask about what they ate today. But it's, you get what I'm saying. It's not like I'm evaluating their health or anything like that. It's just that I know it contributes. It contributes in so many ways to who we bring to work every day, right? How do you see it?
I agree. And I agree in the notion. I'm not a health coach, and it's more about like helping the person to see themselves holistically. I understand I'm more than my brain, which is, I find cognitive intelligence is highly overrated in software development and product management. Highly intelligent people, and they only focus on their mental capacities or the cognitive capacities. And then they're feeling stressed, they're feeling overwhelmed, they can't sleep, they're gaining weight that they don't know why. They feeling agitated. They keep working, but they're not getting anything done. And then really going into the topics of how you're treating yourself, how healthy is your lifestyle, and just asking reflective questions.
Yeah,
I see that a lot. And one thing that I've been completely obsessed with, as you know, is the female cycle. Like myself, I have had crazy issues with menstrual pain the past couple of years, and I would actually fake it at work. I would just pretend everything was okay. I would never speak about it because it was such a taboo. And then I discovered the work of Alyssa Vitti, the flow.
mm-hmm.
And ever since, I use it to share it with people. I'm not a menstrual coach, but I use the work of someone who's legit in that business.
Are there menstrual coaches?
Yes, there are menstrual coaches.
Wow.
High performance female coaches.
Okay.
That actually help women to learn about the cycle. Those are 4 phases in the cycle. Each phase brings different strength and weaknesses with it. And how do you learn actually to use it to your advantage? And what can you do to be a high performant woman at work at any time, working with your cycle, instead of forcing yourself into the 9-to-5 male process of a company, which it is, which also men suffer, by the way, from, and just go with a cycle. And I use this as a little bit of a entry point into the conversation of holistic health as a woman. Very curious about how menopause affects work performance and predictability of one's own performance. What you can say about this, Matt?
It's less about menopause and it's more about perimenopause, because menopause is you're done. I mean, you'll still have symptoms, but it's that perimenopause phase, which can be anywhere from, 5 to 10 years even before you hit menopause, and things start really changing. And it's not just, the usual things like hot flashes. I happened to go through perimenopause really quickly, and I did have really bad hot flashes. And it was horrific. But it's also sleep. Your whole sleep gets turned on its head. It's your emotions. It's, again, weight gain, and just your hormones are all over the map. Brain fog, just not being able to function in some cases. And I'm really grateful, like, for all kind of how it's less taboo to talk about it, and there's more people doing research into it, and more people talking about it, and there's a slew of books and podcasts that I really relied on and rely on for information. But I think it's a very recent thing that, again, we're able to talk about it. And so it's a similar thing, though. It's just like, you're in I mean, it sounds funny now, but I remember being at a team lunch, and, it's mostly software developer boys. And I'm sitting at this team lunch, and all of a sudden I was just soaking wet. I was in the middle of a hot flash, and my t-shirt was soaking wet from the amount, and it was in an air-conditioned restaurant and stuff like that. But it's like that extreme, it just came over you. There's nothing you can do about it except change your t-shirt, I guess. But in the moment. So yeah, the whole idea that we shouldn't acknowledge that these changes are happening inside to us, and acknowledge that they do affect how we work, and what we can do and what we can't do at the time. I think it's super important. Again, like I said in the opening, we're not machines, we're not cyborgs, we're human living organisms. We change.
And I do find it interesting. To me, the topic of menopause, premenopause, was not even on my radar. I was never thinking about this. I also never thought about women that just got birth, that are pregnant, or that are the year after giving birth. I never really thought about what it meant for them emotionally, physically. And they just, we all just keep showing up to work. We don't really speak about this because just delivering, next meeting, back to back, we do stuff.
Yeah.
And ever since I even developed those questions, the conversation just completely shifted from women opening up and sharing. You're like, oh yes, it's very hard. And that's what I need to perform. This is what I'm not performing. This is what I'm not performing.
Definitely. I also think that working from home, like working remotely, is a game changer too, because, all of this kind of flexible work policies, if you're not at the top of your game, you can, give yourself a break, take a break, and do whatever you need to do. And when you're in an office, it's just so much harder, right? Where are you going to escape to?
I'm even the most unsocial during my period. I just cannot speak with people.
Yeah.
I'm very easily agitated. I'm just at my best during my period, doing reflective work, going through past materials, doing evaluations of trainings. I'm not great at delivering training. If I do so, I need to be on painkillers. I can do it for 5 hours. And actually sharing this knowledge about the female cycle and raising those questions about premenopause, menopause, women giving birth, and all this bucket of topics, raising it in front of men, I met only curiosity, I must say. Only curiosity. I feel women are the ones who are more ashamed and uncomfortable than men are with this. The men that I met, they're like, oh, interesting. Tell me more about this. I didn't know. I have no idea. I'm leading a couple of women, and I would like to be a better leader. Or I have daughters. I would love to understand my teenage daughter going into adulthood, and to know how I can support her. And I think by us speaking up about those topics and including men in this conversation and asking men, how do you feel with the current work process? How does it work with your natural rhythm? Do
Yeah.
you feel up to your energy? Don't. I was surprised that men are also not feeling 100% on top of their games with the structure that was designed by men for men initially. It also doesn't work.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a few things here, right? So for leaders especially, it's like, what's taboo now? Like what can you talk about? What can't you talk about? But it's also like, if you think about someone who's leading a team, really understanding what's going on in the team and the individuals in the team, and in any given moment of time, and not just assuming that, we're all the same cookie cutter things, or not assuming that, if Sabrina's having a particularly difficult day, it has anything to do with the job, right? It could be something, and that applies to men as well, right? So like, it's something as simple as, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm like totally like foggy and cranky, and you can tell, especially like when you have new parents on the team and they're in that sleep deprivation point, and they've got the bags under their eyes, and they just look really exhausted. They look exhausted. And now they have to do a 1.5 hour meeting or training or whatever. Like, how do you work with that? So it's super important, I think, for leaders in particular to understand some of these concepts and find ways to bring it into what they're doing with their teams.
Yeah. And when you're saying those concepts, what I'm thinking, what leads should know, and that's what actually is reflected in our leadership module on high performance, right? Is nutrition, 101 on nutrition. It's not that we need to be nutritionists, but you are what you eat. And what are foods that boost high performance, reduce stress and anxiety, and actually bring us into high performance states and creativity, which is not Coca-Cola and pizza. And that is usually what we order. There's a company event, let's get pizza and Coca-Cola.
I know. I remember, it just reminds me of back when I was still in the States and, working in one of these crazy teams, they would have like lockers full of Mountain Dew. I don't know if you know what Mountain Dew is, but it's like this, it's kind of like super caffeinated. It's like Red Bull, but they would like give it away for free to the team to keep them pumped up and alert to keep working. I mean, it's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? And the snack machines would have candy bars and crisps in it. They wouldn't offer any healthy food. It's like now they offer healthy food. They'd have fruit baskets or whatever. But back when I was like first starting out in my career, it was junk. It was junk, total junk.
Sleep, you mentioned the big topic.
Huge.
How can a leader help sleep? I'm curious. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, as with anything, it starts with them, right? So how are they tracking their sleep? What is their sleep hygiene about? It's even like, are they answering emails or sending messages to the team, in out of office hours, or do they actually go to the trouble of setting it to send in the morning when someone first starts their day or whatever? I mean, I know for myself, I'm a morning person, and my nights are like, I'm out, like I'm switched off and whatever. The phone is off, everything is dark, and I'm sleeping. But other people actually are night owls. So how do you accommodate that too, right? Not everybody's a morning person. Not everyone should be in the 5 a.m. club. I'm not saying that that's the only way to be. Like, I think it's, again, understanding your rhythms, your circadian rhythms, and working with it. You said, what can a leader do? I think the first thing is to understand what is it for them, and actually track it. There's like so much ability at our fingertips right now to do this kind of tracking. It's not like you need a Fitbit or a special piece, an Oura ring or whatever. You can do a pretty decent job tracking your sleep with a pad of paper and a pencil and just writing down what time did I go to bed and what time did I wake up. Is it going to tell you what time you fell asleep? No. Maybe you can use your phone for that if you still have it in the room with you, or your Apple Watch or whatever watch you have. But I'm just understanding how it works for you and then working with it.
What comes to my mind is also, it's not only sleep, it's rest in general. So when I'm thinking about rest, which is a big part in being creative, and even we're asking people in companies to be innovative, to be creative.
Like that.
Yeah, no, with a solution. And there's no space for rest. There's no space for play.
Yeah.
And when we play, our brain, our cognitive mind that is so highly active rests, and we get a moment of breaking out of the routine, and we recharge.
Yeah.
Power napping, helping people to, like, through breathing, as you said.
Yeah.
Conscious breathing, group breathing, Wim Hof, whatnot.
Just going outside, taking a walk. I'm just thinking about like the amount of things that we can do that we don't even allow ourselves to do. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes it's so obvious that we miss it.
Like what?
I'm thinking about, the classic story of, someone who's like struggling with a problem and they're just like sitting in front of their desk for hours and hours and hours, and they finally walk away from the desk, and then the next morning they're in the shower and boom, they solve it. Why is that? Right? Sometimes you can't force it. You have to give your brain a chance to rest, like you're saying.
And it's also when we are caught in negative thinking loops or anxious or stressful thinking, taking a hot shower, going for a walk, going for a run, these things are, this is science that proves that this helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that actually then rest and recovery can happen. And this doesn't mean it only happens at night.
Exactly.
It happens throughout the day. And I also think whatever one's routine is, or whenever you're most performative as night, during the day, it doesn't matter as long as you respect yourself.
Yeah.
Especially as a leader, you gotta be very conscious of your actions, how you're behaving, and what you show the team. And if you as a leader work at night, gotta communicate to the team what are the times that I'm resting. Yeah. And if you're not conscious about it, and you're just doing it, I'm just asking every leader to check in with themselves on their physical well-being, on their emotional well-being, on their vitality, on the level of energy, and really be honest with themselves. Are you on top of your game? Are you feeling good? I guess the answer is mostly no.
Yeah.
And then if you start from an honest place, then you can start to redesign your life and create an environment for your team in which all of you can thrive.
Model the behavior, right? But it's not just modeling the behavior. It's also like you said, if I'm responsible for a team of people, I need to be strong, right? I need to make sure that I'm at the top of my game so that I can lead well. Someone who got me, on this whole heart rate variability kick was I listened to a podcast with Joe Mazzulla, coach of the Boston Celtics. And he was one of the youngest coaches of an NBA team. And one of the things that he started doing was learning how to manage his stress so that in the heat of the game or in a playoff situation, he can hold the team. He can carry them because he's dealing with the stress. He's grounded, he's centered, he's not just freaking out or whatever, but he's coaching through the stress. It's not that we're trying to eliminate stress. Stress exists. What we're trying to do is manage it and manage how we go through it.
And there's also positive and negative stress.
Yeah.
Right? There's some stress that we need to learn, to grow, to overcome a challenge, to solve a problem. And for certain, again, let's take Innovation Days, a hackathon. There's stress. There's a time box on it. You're given a limited amount of time. There are some constraints. So you want the competition, but you only do those events for 24 hours, 3 days. 5 days is a stretch. You wouldn't want to do it. You want to do it for 3 days, and then people are tired. It builds up like this. The energy goes up, 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 up. They're all the way up here, and then it crashes.
Yeah.
You cannot sustain a high level of stress. And I think when leaders lead through creating fear, this is what they're getting. They get people crashing, and this is when we are facing burn down.
Yep.
And I assume the leader what's a good thing. They want good company numbers, right? But how do you get there? By actually embracing the human being's biology and working in harmony with it rather than against it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like if we think of easy things that anyone can start doing now, I would say understand how you are right now. Like you said, what am I eating every day? How am I sleeping? How much exercise am I getting? Am I like always glued to my phone, or, do I have moments where I'm not seeing anything digital? How are my relationships with people who I'm not working with? And, what's my community like? All of it's super important. And if you ignore any one of it, then you're out of balance.
I would like to add to this topic emotional resilience or emotional competence.
Yeah.
Part for sure is the relational intelligence and having relationships. And the other is, what is my relationship with myself and my emotions? What language am I using? What is this language causing in me? I worked in companies, or I've been in teams where the language was more it was a war zone. We're on the minefield, and this creates stress. We believe that's true. We're thinking we're facing danger. Our stress goes up, negative stress. And then I hear many people, and I must say, especially women, say, I don't want people to perceive me as emotional. We are all emotional. I'm sorry to break it to you, but we have emotions. We're emotional beings. So what can you do? You're bottling it up. This might lead to chronic diseases. This might lead to your skin breaking out. This might lead to you not sleeping.
Yeah.
Or are you investigating and you're curious about your emotions and really going, why am I feeling scared? Why am I feeling disgusted?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling sad? And then looking into this and understanding your boundaries, your values, and then bring it back to your team, to your leader, to your HR department, to your coach, share it and ask, what can I do with this now?
Yeah, exactly. And I think so I think there's a balance. Again, I go off on balance, but there's a difference between having high standards for yourself. So I don't think what you're saying is we should just kind of relax all the time, right? It's not about relaxing all the time. You can still have high standards for yourself. Where it gets dangerous, though, is if it's like chronic, right? Or if it becomes like at the very end of the spectrum where you're like a perfectionist and nothing is ever perfect. Like you know what I mean? And then that's that stress where you can never measure up. And then it starts spiraling. No one in your team can measure up. And so then you start like maybe micromanaging because they're not doing it exactly the perfect way that you need them to do it, that you would do it yourself. And so you start bringing some of this emotional relationship with yourself to your relationship with your team members too.
I think it's interesting that you bring in the topic of measurement and standards with balance, because I do think in order that we can perform at our best, our very best is if we are on top of those things, if you understand our biology, if we understand our emotions. I have days that I can work 13 hours, high performant. I'm on top of my game because I'm leveraging my biology instead of working against it. And perfectionism is fear. No? Perfectionism is literally fear of fucking up. So what do you do with this? You take in and like, what is expected? What do we need to deliver to our customers? What do we need to deliver to our users? What do our stakeholders expect? So you're looking at all this, and then you create work results that fit, and you do your very best every day. And I think we can only do this if we are looking at our world holistically and the ones of the people around us. Check in where we at and support each other. How you doing today, Mel? Where's your energy at? How can I help you? Oh, I just need a break. I cannot do anything today. Okay. So when can we do it then? When is a good day so that we can do it in 30 minutes, spot on, rather than 3 hours, wanting rather to scream or cry during the session?
Yeah, exactly. You know what though, Sabrina? It's really hard. It's like if I can imagine myself earlier, when I was in my 20s and 30s even, if someone was going to ask me, what are you feeling right now? I wouldn't know what to answer. I had no idea. I had no clue. So, and I think that's true for a lot of people. We don't actually, it's part of it is not having the vocabulary to articulate it. Part of it is about having the ability to hold that attention on yourself, right? And really like that kind of self-introspection and self-examination. Like it's hard if you don't know how to do it. So, I mean, for me, I had a therapist who helped me figure out how to do it, right? And she was a licensed therapist, psychotherapist, and I learned so much about her. I mean, I worked through a lot of shit with her, but the biggest life lesson I got from her was how to think about what was going on with me and like not immediately jump to judgment, but just like being open to understanding what was going on. Like why am I feeling this way right now? Is it because I drank wine last night, or is it because I had a cookie for breakfast, or is it because my boss just gave me a huge project and wants a report on it tomorrow? Like it could be any one of these things that I'm feeling shit right now. And like, what do I do with it? How do I unpack that? How do I know what contributed to how I'm feeling?
Remember this situation back then, one of the product manager bosses, I was feeling a lot of anxiety. I was very worried. I was scared about so many things. There was so much pressure that I perceived as pressure, and I was spiraling out. And he looked at me, he said, look, you got to express those feelings to the outside, because looking at you, I could never tell. Just your smiley, positive Sabrina. And that is just, I needed to learn how to connect with my emotions, let them in, let them out, let them through, and communicate them to people around me who could actually help me.
Yeah.
And what helped me with this was coaching, and the other is finding the work of Paul Ekman. So his work with this Atlas of Emotions is very, very extensive. I get this whole line of, I'm getting triggered, this is what I'm feeling, this is how I'm acting, and it just invites you to experiment and to explore. I'm completely obsessed. There's this app, We Feel. I just started using it. It's giving you every day a check-in, and then you can check in on this, and you're actually learning a vocabulary of emotion.
Oh, wow.
Tapping on it, it explains you the emotion, and it goes through a range.
Oh, I love it.
It is, and then it gives you tips. Then you have actually an AI coach, how to overcome the fear of being vulnerable towards yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's no one there to judge you. It's just you judging yourself for feeling something.
Exactly.
And I think the other thing, how what we're doing with work when we work with leaders and teams is bringing this into the team in a still appropriate manner. So it's not that we are there in a group holding hands, singing Kumbaya Mana and crying. It's really about bringing this scientific approach forward and helping people to connect with this topic, including nonviolent communication, which gives a rich vocabulary of emotions. No?
Yeah. And when I start out in those workshops, getting to the second step, which is I feel mad, sad, glad. Pretty much it. We got 3 words that we can use. And then I'm just like, one of the things I like to do is think of like 10 different words that express anger.
Wow.
Suddenly, if you have a group of 5 people, you've got 50 more words that you could use. And it can be a very precise word, but this is the thing, unless you practice it and give yourself space and give yourself time, to really get in touch with it and explore it, you're limiting yourself. You're limited.
And the leader has to give this space. And I just want to side note, when I work with teams, which are usually multicultural, I invite people to do this in their favorite language.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I don't need to understand. You can still write it down in the language you prefer, and then you can translate it. You can use ChatGPT or Google Translate, but it doesn't matter. First, be you do you.
Yes.
No, switch off the translation machine. No, go into find a safe space within yourself and just write it out.
Yeah.
And the second part is in connecting it and but even the same word, you speak in American English. Now you're speaking with the Brits. I mean completely different things. So even where you grew up or the generation you grew up, the same word never means the same thing to anyone. So we need to create a shared understanding and a shared definition. And just establish, as we did with Agile practices, we brought a language to teams to help them to speak about managing work.
Yeah.
And now we need to bring a language to teams that helps them to manage their health.
Yeah. Manage themselves, right? It's self-management. It's taking responsibility for who you are and how you are.
Through sports and movement, enhance leadership capabilities and team dynamics. One of our favorite topics is the sports.
You have to tell us all about your stint with FC Barcelona training.
Yeah, so I participated in the Innovation Hub training of FC Barcelona, and it's all about how do people lead in a very stressful environment, athletes.
Mm-hmm.
High stress, high stakes for everyone involved. And what they're doing is when the coach works with a team, it's actually not one coach for the team. It's a bunch of coaches per person. A physio, a chiro, a psychologist, a technical coach.
Yeah.
Also, you have different disciplines that help this person to be high performant. And what I find interesting is this balance between you're moving, so you need to challenge yourself physically. You need to be in this physical stress.
Mm-hmm.
But then you really need to have your body rest and regenerate, and you need external help to get your body aligned again. So for me, this means, with desk workers, what's our normal posture?
Yeah.
What do you do with this? I go to chiropractic once a month, every 2 months, just to get this alignment back, right? And so professional athletes get this treatment every day for a normal work day. And the companies, I find this interesting that we're so disconnected from our physical bodies.
Yes.
Even though we're also athletes in our own way,
Are you noticing that more and more people are doing like standing desks or even treadmill desks? I have one person on my team who, if we're doing like a one-to-one, she's
like me?
She's always on her treadmill desk, and I love it. It's just like she's like walking like this, and I'm like, "Are you gonna get there? Are you gonna get there?" And it just, I don't know. It changes the flavor of the conversation, I think.
And it actually leads to stretch out a little bit. Just double check. And I have a balance board right here and a standing desk. So whenever
so you're on the balance board and the standing desk.
Yes. Yeah. If I would no, I don't show it now, but it's a standing. Now I'm standing.
Yeah.
Up there. And I also have I give myself places to go at the office, so I can actually move around. You don't see me now, but oh well, you can survive. And this also helps working with people. Just tell them, look, walk around a little bit, come back. I think like physical activity is such an integral part of an athlete's life and in the DNA of people working with sports teams. Get the body moving, because body in motion is also brain emotion, as you said.
What's going to your brain? It makes sense. It's like it's activated. One of the things that I've tried with a couple of clients of mine is this was for people who had a really hard time focusing, right? It was like they had this like giant to-do list, and it would be the end of the day and nothing got done on the to-do list. It's just like recurring. And so what we first did was start trying to do Pomodoros. So you work for, what is it? You work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break and you do that 5 times. And then after the 5th time, you take a 25-minute break or something like that. And then the next stage, once they get used to doing Pomodoros, is in the breaks, you introduce exercise snacks. So instead of just saying, okay, I'm not going to work on this document anymore, I'm going to surf. No, you get out of your desk, out of your chair, and you do, 5 squats or do a plank or something, or do some push-ups or do some pull-ups. And it's like exercise snacks mixed with Pomodoro. It's great.
I love it.
Yeah. Instead of like saying you have to, I have to drag myself to the gym and do a 30-minute workout or an hour workout. No, you don't have to do it like that. You can do like 5 minutes every half hour.
What I'm inviting people to do in meetings is usually to switch off the camera, because everyone has a standing desk, right? So I ask them to switch off the camera and do stretches or jumping jacks, move your body in the session. And especially when we're feeling stuck or angry or agitated, we cannot solve a problem in the same state that we are in. So actually too, when I'm now annoyed with you, I'm annoyed with the way you speak with me, or, whatever's happening in me, how I'm perceiving our interaction, I'm just, sucks, I just want to leave, and I have to be here and listen to this. Instead of take a break, at least 1 minute, breathe, and do something physical to get out of your head. And this is as literal as it is. We can only get out of our head by engaging our bodies. I mean, that's why we have them. It's not that they're decoration, just hanging out and, after Christmas telling us, oh, you ate too many chocolates. I think that's something that I've been really enjoying. And I do see people being hesitant and a little timid. They're a little shy about moving the body. They're a little shy about stretching the arms and maybe like shaking it up. So that's why the camera off actually in a remote environment is much easier to do this in a remote environment than at the office. So many people, because I can't see you. And if you're feeling self-conscious about your body and your crazy athletic colleague, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Cam off, and I just do me.
Yep. Love it.
Well, Mel, maybe we wrap it up.
Okay. Everything we talked about, we could easily spend, an hour on each thing.
Maybe we wrap this up by showing of the materials that we have on one of our modules. This is part of the high performance module. It's not everything, it's just a small part of it. So we're bringing in one, as Mel said multiple times, the holistic view. You can assess yourself, where you're at in your life, what is important, where you're lacking. Then we have the stress bell curve exercise, which works amazing just to check in with a team.
Yeah.
Any day, where you at?
Yep. That one is actually great to bring into one-to-ones, and you can start working with your teammate to draw, a chart of how the stress goes up and down over a number of weeks even.
I love this. Yes. And we have the 3 performance pillars: sleep slash rest, sleep slash rest, exercise and nutrition.
Cool.
And we brought it down to like some basic information because we're not nutritionists. Here is the circadian rhythm.
Cool.
And a beautiful activity here is actually just to map it out with your team. What are you doing when? What works well for you? And then for women, you can always look at the female menstrual cycle and invite the person to reflect. Mm-hmm. There's actually also like a high performance workout plan and a work schedule for cycling women. Cool. Then we have here the emotional skills and competencies and the topic of vulnerability. And as a leader, emotions and vulnerability is very important. And we as Agile coaches, we're also leaders. You might not think we're not managers, but we're leaders. So our product managers, they are leaders. And if we're not showing up authentically, people cannot connect with us. They don't believe anything we say. And then
we got to live it.